Welcome back to another episode of What Do We Watch? Keith, welcome.
Nicholas, how are we today?
We are good. We're good. Officially. We're back. It's been a couple weeks since we've recorded. So I had boo-boo tummy. You had boo-boo tummy.
Oh yeah, I had bad.
We were
bad,
out of
bad
town
boo-boo tummy.
with the family over the holidays, you know. How have you been?
I've been good. Once I got unsick, I felt better. I haven't been sick like that in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like scary. I'd never seen you look so gray.
Yeah, that's what people told me. My buddy, when I told him, I was like, "Yeah, I think I had food poisoning." He's like, "Yeah, I think the night before you looked like shit." It's like, okay.
And you usually look like shit, so this was extra bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I just kept telling you looked healthy.
Yeah, you kept telling me that, and you told me that today, and I'm like, "Oh, do I look sick again?" Damn.
No, I just think it's something like it's one of those comments I feel like is backhanded.
Oh, it's backhanded.
Like if someone told you look, which I was telling you looked healthy. Like if someone other than me was like, Keith, hey man, it's good to see you. You look healthy.
Yeah, you said you look healthy, and then you followed it up with like, "Yeah, you're gonna be around for a while, huh?" Something like that.
Something like that.
I was like, "Oh, cool."
Well, I was saying you look healthy. Like I don't care what Tom says.
Oh, yeah, he was telling me that I don't look
Yeah.
healthy. He said I needed some vitamins.
Big City Tommy Diesel coming at you.
He said, "Yeah, your skin's a little green. You need some vitamins, clear that up a little bit." I was like, "Damn, Tom."
Damn, Diesel got me. But anywho,
It's fine, dude. Whatever.
that's fine.
I'll just eat ice cream before I go to bed again. It's fine.
What a weird thing. We're not going to get into that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
we'll leave it alone.
so what have you been watching? I know we've been watching a lot of stuff, but how about you give me like your top 3 that you watched?
Okay, I'll go. I saw movies in the theater. So
What'd you
I'll do
watch?
those.
What'd you say?
So I saw Thanksgiving, which is
The horror movie, right?
Eli Roth Thanksgiving style horror movie.
Yeah. Was it good?
Yeah, it was good. I actually thought it was pretty cool. It was like I thought it was like this vibe of Scream 6, like that kind of vibe, like
Yeah.
newer slasher, or it's done kind of right. But you just take that and you cram it into a Black Friday Thanksgiving, but like a almost like a town built on Thanksgiving kind of. It's
Yeah.
Like, it's what is it, Plymouth or it's one of the. I think it might be Plymouth, Mass.
Yeah.
Is where it takes place. But yeah,
It's
the
pretty
kills are awesome.
I think people were actually like, I think some of the reviews that I read, people were like, this isn't just like a crappy slash. Like this is actually a good.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Do you think that's your new? Is that going to be in the rotation that you watch every year?
Probably because there's not really much.
There's
else.
no Thanksgiving. There's not a lot of Thanksgiving movies.
Yeah, there's Thanksgiving, which is like a B movie,
Yeah.
kind of just whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's this, and then there's this movie Pilgrim that came out a couple years ago on Hulu. That was okay.
Yeah.
It was like how it was one that takes place on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It was decent, but like, yeah, I don't know. There's not really much.
Well, even as we were thinking about movies to cover, so this one, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. For the episode this week, it is a Thanksgiving movie. I think there's just like not a lot of Thanksgiving movies in general
That are specifically
like centered around Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So, but that's good. And what else did you see?
So I did see Napoleon with Joaquin Phoenix.
Give me an out of 10. 1, 2, 3, go.
8.
Okay.
Like I don't really know. I mean, even higher. I actually really liked it. It's getting not great reviews.
Remember we were reading the reviews. The one guy was like, I can't believe they made Napoleon so like mean and evil. I'm like, what?
Dude, all right. So first of all, he's funny in the movie. Like there's parts where I was
like it's a comedic role.
I was crying. There was a couple parts where my lady and I were like in tears because it was so ridiculous. Like I don't know what people wanted out of it. I don't know. Like she was like, "What do they want? Saving Private Ryan with Napoleon?" Like
yeah,
but like because some of the reviews were like, "Oh, there's not enough battle scenes." There's like 6 or 7 like big and the kills and like the way that their people are getting slaughtered. It's pretty nuts.
I mean, this isn't. I don't think it was like billed as like it's not a war movie.
Yeah, I don't know what people wanted, but then
you know
also the other review I heard was like, oh, it focuses too much on Josephine, his wife.
Oh, okay.
I saw it. She's in it. She's a major player, but like, at no point
historically and in the movie.
Like, at no point was I like, oh, there's not enough Napoleon in it. He's in every scene pretty much.
Yeah,
like, I don't know what they were looking for, and he's awesome.
People just like to bitch is really what it is.
And like,
but man, let's give a shout out to Joaquin Phoenix. He's been
killed.
He's been like
Yeah.
in the last 5 years, just cranking out awesome.
Yeah,
movies.
he's probably my favorite right now.
Yeah, he's just everything he does, and then I guess the new Joker.
Sorry, Nick Cage. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Greatest ever do it.
So sorry, Nicolas Cage. I'm so sorry.
Speaking of Nicolas Cage, though, then you also saw.
I saw Dream Sequence.
Dream Sequence.
Dream Scenario. Sorry.
Yeah, Dream
Scenario. I don't know what
you call yourself a fan. That's
I don't call myself anything.
I
call myself late for dinner because that's usually what I am. Yes, we eat at 9 or 10 sometimes. I know that drives you insane.
Yeah, dude, I eat early bird special at like 4:30 every day.
You're done at 4. You're like, I'm done.
I'm actually hungry now because I'm like, oh, it's dinner time.
It is dinner time for you.
Yeah, I usually get my cup of soup and half a club sandwich by now.
He's like, yeah, just can I have a couple chips though?
Give me a couple scoops and
a couple chips. Couple of them kettle chips, please. Just I know I'm watching it, but come on.
Is this me at like a Cracker Barrel?
I don't know.
Being like, hey buddy, come on.
No, this is you like, I know I said I wouldn't snack, but just a couple of chips with my sandwich.
It's like in Dodgeball when he's hooked up to the shock thing. You know what I'm talking about? It's like just one little bite won't hurt you. God.
All right, so
that's 3 solid movies though. Oh yeah, you didn't.
Yeah, Dream Scenario. I think that movie's awesome.
Yeah,
I thought that was really good.
That's A24.
A24. Nick Cage is. I'll say Nicolas Cage is unstoppable. I don't care.
Who else was in that movie? Like what?
Hold on. I'll give you the rundown.
Give me the rundown. How was it a long movie?
Nah, like hour 40 maybe.
That's not bad.
It was like
a normal plot, if you will.
Yeah,
that's pretty solid. He looked like really fun. Like even in the trailers and stuff like that. I just think his character looked like pretty awesome. Like the costume, like he did. I think this is the first one where it was like, I feel like Nick Cage always plays these like kind of, I'm gonna say quote unquote like badass dudes, but isn't he just like a frumpy middle aged dude in this movie?
Oh yeah, he's not. He's just himself in this movie.
That's pretty great.
I think that's like the vibe. It's like, oh, what does he look like now? That's it.
Put him in a sweater and some glasses and get him out there.
But yeah, Michael Cera has a small part. Tim Meadows, Dylan Baker from Halloween.
Yeah.
I mean, Trick or Treat. Ooh.
I know who you're talking about.
The principal. And Julianne Nicholson is his wife. But yeah, it's a really good movie. And it's the second big movie by Christopher, I'm going to say Borgli, I think his name. He's a Norwegian filmmaker.
Yeah.
And I watched...
What made him pick Nicolas Cage for this role, though?
I don't know. I think it probably has something to do with Nicolas Cage just in popular culture.
Yeah.
Because, like, everybody's, like, ironically fan of Nicolas Cage. Like, oh, dude, Nicolas Cage with the bees. Yeah. Like, it's like, okay. I guess everyone has the internet, just thinks he's, like, a funny actor.
It's almost like I know when he did, what was it, the vampire one that he just did? Renfield. I know people were like, oh, dude, did you see Nicolas Cage plays a vampire? Yeah. Like, I think it's those types of movies. It's not like, where a lot of them, it's like, oh, this is about, a guy who does X, Y, and Z. Anytime he's in a movie,
Nicolas Cage is a toaster.
It's always him as like, oh, he plays that. Like everyone's like, look, it's Nick Cage right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's just like funny that he's in it.
Yeah, like, but he's a great actor. I stand by it.
He's the sickest of all time. His stuff in the '80s was sick. His stuff in the '90s was sick.
It was
even
all
his
sick.
Stuff in the 2000s is sick. And then now somehow he's making awesome movies. But this director also made a movie called Sick of Myself, which came out last year, and I was like had in my list to watch for a while. Just the face, the this is gonna sound nuts, but the cover is just like a girl's face covered in bandages.
Oh, that's
called
cool.
Sick of Myself. I was like, I don't even care what that movie's about. I'm just gonna watch it.
Yeah.
And then I saw it was the same director. And I'm like, I gotta watch it.
Sold.
So it's not what I thought of at all. It's just a super uncomfortable movie about a couple that they're like this Norwegian couple. The one guy's he's an artist. And then she's like, they're constantly competing for like attention.
Yeah.
Like around their friends, basically in life.
Yeah.
So he's like becoming famous, and she's always trying to
one up him or something like that.
Like basically tear him down in front of his friends.
Yeah.
And then what she tries to do.
That sounds like a super fun time to be around those two.
I want to spoil a little bit, but she finds this drug that like has caused disfiguration in people.
Oh.
She's like, oh, I want to take that. So she just does it
just to like have a talking point, basically.
Becomes like popular in the world. Like she's all over the news and like so she basically like ruins her life so that people will notice her.
Will know who she is. That's kind of wild.
And it's still them like trying to undermine each other the whole time. It's one of the most uncomfortable things I've seen in a while. And
It's just like a downward spiral.
I was like, this guy is a good filmmaker. I mean,
yeah.
I thought Sick of Myself, probably not recommended to people. Yeah. One, because it's subtitled, and two, because it's just nuts. But Dream Scenario, I think that's definitely
that's a solid one.
I would say all three of those are watches. Thanksgiving, if you want to see a little bit of schlocky horror. Napoleon, if you need to see Joaquin Phoenix, and it's Ridley Scott.
Yeah,
I think it's a really good movie. Like, you get Napoleon's backstory, you get funniness somehow in there, you get kind of a dreadful, like, cold kind of vibe, and then you get crazy war scenes.
I was gonna say, like, with Ridley Scott, I mean, he's did Alien and honestly just like a ton of other movies.
It makes me want to watch Gladiator again.
Yeah, Joaquin he killed it in that.
Yeah, and you have that pop figure, right?
I do. Yeah, he's at my desk. Him giving the little thumbs down, which is that's good times.
But so enough about me. What did you watch?
What did we watch? I watched this movie, so I already told you the spiel.
Oh yeah, you did watch this movie.
So the only reason I'm doing it is because I watched this movie 3 times in the last week, and just because this is such a comfort one. So this is one I've just been throwing on. But I also watched Free State of Jones, which I told you about, Civil War movie, Matthew McConaughey. Pretty good. I'll give it a watch.
Matthew Broderick, right?
No, that's Glory is Matthew Broderick.
Oh, I thought you said Broderick this morning.
No.
I was like, he's in 2 Civil War movies?
He's like, oh, he's done it again.
Oh, it's McConaughey?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I gotta watch now.
It's very good. I'm trying to think of any other kind of weirder movies. I haven't been watching it. I've been watching a ton of TV. I watched. Do you know Ricky Gervais? That was a stupid question. He has a show on Netflix called Afterlife. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of it, but I don't know anything about it.
So I rewatched that again. That whole series. It's like 3 seasons. Blew through that really quick. I don't know. I've just been throwing on little onesie twosie things here and there. Nothing too wild.
Oh, dude, yeah, I do want to check out this Free State of Jones now.
Yeah, it's long. It's about 2 hours, but I think it's worth it.
I'm a big Mac guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. All right.
He's so cool.
He is. It's really scary.
I hate how cool he is. I used to not like him because of the Lincoln commercial.
Yeah. But he's so cool.
He's like, I was driving Lincoln way before it was cool to drive a Lincoln.
I was driving Lincoln. You're like, oh my God, Mr. Matthew.
But then I saw Lincoln Lawyer and I was like, okay, sign me up. Him and Marissa Tomei on the same screen. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I did. Okay, I did watch a few other movies, but let me just throw this out there. I watched this movie called In the Bedroom with Marissa Tomei just because I like her. I watched this.
Yeah.
And it's about. It's actually a really sad movie, but like I didn't. Well, I didn't know it was going to be sad.
You were like, yeah, it's in the bedroom. You're like, let me tell you.
I didn't know it was going to be sad.
Yeah,
I just read the tagline. I try to just read a tagline
Yeah.
of a movie anymore and not watch a trailer because sometimes it just ruins it. So I was going with Marissa Tomei, is a mother, single mother that gets in a relationship with a younger male next door, pretty much. And it's like a weird family situation where the parents are obviously not into it.
Yeah.
And their high school. They're like, no, he's out of high school. He's like going to college.
Oh, I was like, wait,
no, not that, not like a weird. It's like it's a legal thing, but he's like
it's illegal.
He's like in college.
Okay,
but he's like dating the neighbor who's like an older. She's a little bit older. She's not like 25 years older than him.
Okay, so older. It's not as dramatic.
And I knew
as
it was like a drama. One of
okay,
those like the situation, and I kind of like a drama every once in a while.
Yeah,
so I was like, okay, well, let me tell you, she's in it for the first bit, and then it takes some dark dives that I was like, oh,
wait,
man.
What year was this one? Was it newer or older?
It's like 2001, I think.
2001.
It was really good. I just like if I see Marissa Tomei is going to be in something, I'm like, oh,
it's an instant
sign
watch.
me up.
Yeah, she's delightful.
She's like almost up there with like some of my guys, like Joaquin or Nick Cage or Philip Seymour Hoffman. If they're in it, I'm like, I don't really care what it's about.
I don't care. I'm watching it.
I'm probably going to watch it.
All right, so what do you think? Should we get into the movie that we're covering?
Yeah, did we even say what we're covering? Or we just give enough hints to probably...
Nah, dude. Keith, what do we watch? What did we watch?
Yeah, we're watching Valentine's Day with... Just kidding. We're watching Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Woohoo!
Well, we watched it. You watched it 3 times.
3 times.
Yeah. I watched it twice.
So I'm better, clearly.
Yes, definitely.
What if they just heard like a scuffle, and then I was like, "Yep, that was the episode."
What if we did keep track of that, like on spreadsheets, how many times we saw a movie, and we were like, "Oh, well, I saw it 12 times."
You're like, "Ugh, okay."
Well, I mean, Nick, if I had only saw it 3 times, I'd probably be as stupid as you.
Now that it just explains a lot, is all. Anyway, you look healthy today, Keith.
I don't even know what that means.
Anywho,
just let it go.
So this is the 1987 comedy drama. This was written, produced, and directed by John Hughes. I like this movie because this was kind of I think this was one of John Hughes's first like non-teen comedies, because he did the whole run of all those other teen comedies, and this was like made for adults having a good time.
I'd say you're right, because up before that, I mean, like he wrote The Vacations,
Yeah.
16 candles. Yeah. I would say you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Anywho.
Okay. Yeah. You're right.
So
I don't know.
the budget for this movie was $15 million, and the box office $49.5 million. That's just pretty good. Classic John Hughes setting. Very cold Chicago. Keith, you want to talk about who's in this bad Larry?
Yeah, so you got your mains. You got Steve Martin as Neil Page and John Candy as Del Griffith. Those are your two, we'll call them travelers for a better lack of reference, lack of better terms.
Yeah, that was nuts that you just said that.
And then you do have a very young Matthew Lawrence as Neil Jr., so as Steve Martin's son.
Yeah.
Which is funny because every time
he's in it for like a second.
His little bowl cut, but like he's so memorable. You're like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember him. And you have a very quick Kevin Bacon at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And a very quick Ben Stein.
There's a ton of people from, so if you watch this movie, so John Hughes at the same time, it was Ferris Bueller's Day Off was also another Chicago movie. So the people that are in this movie that were also in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the teacher, Ben Stein, which the Bueller, that whole thing. Ferris's dad plays his coworker in the beginning of the movie. And then what's the secretary's name she's very memorable.
The actress?
Yeah, what's her name?
Edie McClurg.
She plays the basically in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. She plays the secretary who loses the pens in her hair. It's just an incredible cast. There's but like you said, little characters here and there will pop up throughout the movie. So I think it's neat that he used some of the similar characters.
And then Dylan Baker, who we just talked about, is also in this. He's one of the people that gives him a ride.
Oh, that's right. And then you had Michael McKean, who was he plays if you watched Better Call Saul, he plays Jimmy McGill's brother. He was in it. He was the state trooper after their unfortunate car incident. Yeah. But I think it's just an incredible cast, like all throughout. Did you want to do, before we get started, did you want to say any fun things about the filming or anything like this? So this was mostly filmed in New York. That's what I did see.
That's weird. I mean, not weird, but it's funny that it takes place in Chicago. And they filmed it at St. Louis.
Yeah, they did at the international airport. Yeah.
But I wonder, I want to look up what they did for, I guess it is Wichita Airport in this one, though, right?
Yeah.
Not O'Hare.
Yeah.
Because I wonder what they did for Home Alone. I think they actually did in O'Hare, right?
I don't know. It would probably be a disaster to try and film that, but...
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was... But this one, it was released on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and like we said in the beginning, I think this is like, for me personally, this is like the definitive Thanksgiving movie.
Yeah, I don't really know of many others that actually take place. When I was younger, I thought The Ref took place on Thanksgiving, but that takes place on Christmas.
Yeah. I think, so for me, growing up, this movie was always synonymous with, like, Christmas Vacation was, like, the Christmas movie. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is the Thanksgiving movie. So did you have anything else that you wanted to
not really. We can
dive into? In. All right. So, yeah, we will do, I'm just going to start going through the plot of this one. Keith, do your normal jumping in, do whatever you want.
Take a nap and...
Play a little Diablo. Keith's been on a big Diablo 2 kick. If anyone else
let's just not even talk about it because I'm not good at it yet. I haven't played it in 20 years, he's
aspiring.
I also don't remember anything. Nick remembers everything from
because I've been playing the game for 20 years. Anyway, we're not gonna.
What? We play a different game or something?
Great. Oh, Keith's just got a black screen on his computer.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. We don't want to bore the people. So starting off, we have Neil Page, played by my boy Steve Martin. He's an advertising executive, and he's basically on a business trip in New York. It looks like he's at some board meeting to try and get something. It looks like a cover approved for a magazine, in a really, really funny, just dry opening scene where his boss is basically looking at, 3 different covers, and he keeps looking at them, and it looks like he's getting ready to say something, and then he stops. Looks like he's getting ready to say something, and then stops. And it kind of just goes back and forth like that for a little bit. I was just lost my train of thought.
They're in the board meeting.
Sorry.
And they're trying to get home for the holiday.
So he basically pulls out his watch, and I can't even remember what time it is, but he has a 6 p.m. flight that he was trying to make because he promised his wife he would be home for the 9 o'clock one. His coworker is played by Ferris's dad, who I can't remember the actor's name right now, but he's like, "Why are you wasting your time for the 6 o'clock flight? just do the 9-1. Like, it's fine. And so he's basically trying to scramble to get a cab, which is at rush hour, which I think is hysterical. So he's basically, again, running late. He struggles to find a cab. He ends up bribing someone to let him have a cab. Someone else takes it. Kevin Bacon outruns him. Yeah. He's in it for like 2 seconds and he's credited, which I think is really funny to me.
Yeah, they have the foot chase. So they basically see each other. They see the cab, so they both start sprinting, and then Neil trips over an unseen case at first.
Yeah,
flies into oncoming traffic as everything goes flying.
Almost gets killed.
And he looks back and sees this like really crazy looking.
This big, it's like a trunk, case. Basically.
It's a trunk, yeah. He's like, what the
hell? And then so another guy pulls up. They're both reach for the same cab, and he says, which is really funny. He's like, "Sir, can I appeal to your good nature? Like, can I have this cab? I'm trying to get home." And he's like, "Yeah, okay, $50." And then or whatever. I think he was $50
at like 10.
And he's like, "Oh well, certainly anyone who's willing to pay $50 would pay pay $100." And it's but at that same time, you have someone else sneaking into the cab to take it, who you would later find out is Del, played by John Candy in this movie.
so he gives him $100.
Yeah, and then his cab just takes off. So Neil finally arrives at LaGuardia Airport. So they're in New York. They find out that the flight is delayed. So while he's waiting, he meets the person who stole his cab, which is Del Griffith, a Lackawanna. Oh my god, I'm just gonna cut that out. He meets Del Griffith, jeez, a shower curtains ring salesman. He basically says like, "Hey, you look familiar," and John Candy goes, "Yeah, you tried to steal my cab." And he's like, "No, you stole my cab."
He's like, "Oh, you're the guy that wanted my cab." And then he's like, "Oh, well, now that I think about it, it was awfully easy to get a cab
during rush hour."
He's like, "I'm so sorry, I stole your cab."
Yeah, and he's like, "Yeah, don't worry about it."
And like, get you a hot dog and a beer. Oh, you got it.
I was gonna say this scene, and then he's basically he's trying to apologize to him. John Candy's trying to apologize to Steve Martin, and he's like, "Can I get you a beer and a hot dog?" He's like, "Nah, no thanks. Yeah, just a hot dog." "No, just a beer." He's like, "How about some coffee, tea,
Lifesaver?" Lifesaver is the one that kills him.
Yeah, Lifesavers. And so basically, you find out instantly that he's kind of I think the first vibe you're supposed to get is that like he means well, but he's just kind of like a bumbling kind of guy. He's a little unaware of his surroundings at times. So they finally get I almost said a plane that is scheduled. So to his dismay, Neil is assigned to the seat right next to Del on a crowded flight to O'Hare, which he's trying to get back to Chicago. So he was ticketed for a first class seat. And this is kind of like the unraveling of it all, I would say.
So he gets ticketed for the first class, gets reassigned to the coach, and then basically this like good-looking suave guy walks in and just like basically kisses the flight attendant and says, "Where should I sit?" And she's like, "Oh, anywhere," or whatever.
I basically think that he was just like just schmoozed his way onto the plane,
and he's just like, "What?" So he's basically gave up his seat for this dickhead.
Yeah,
and he's like, so he looks back. He's like, what does he say? He's, "How can this get any worse?"
Yeah,
or no, he says something. What does he say?
He's
and then he
pretty
looks
mad,
back and it's Del. He sees that he's sitting next to Del.
He's like, "Just when this day couldn't get any worse."
That's what it was.
And then he sits down, and Del goes, "What are the chances?" And he's just like, "Oh my god!"
And then Del proceeds to take off his shoes, and then his socks, and he's like, "Oh!" He's like,
"My dogs are barking." Throughout this whole movie, John Candy, every time. So again, we watched this 3 times in the last week. Every time I watch this movie, I'm just like so bummed that he wasn't around longer to make more movies, because he was. These lines, like his delivery is just so funny in all of his movies.
Because even with just John Hughes, he has this,
Uncle
Great
Buck.
Outdoors, Uncle Buck, all back to back. And then I think something else, right? And then he's in Home Alone real quick.
Home Alone, very quick, has the what's his name? He's like the polka king of the
West.
West.
What is his name? I had it in my head because I was thinking like how close some of these scenes are in the airport.
But he plays in a polka band,
he's
basically.
A polka king. Oh my god, I can't remember his name.
And then a couple years later, he was in Cool Runnings, which is another. I mean, he has a lot of great lines in that movie as well. But anyway, that's just our love of John Candy. So they're mid-flight. Del falls asleep, and he's basically snoring in Steve Martin's face. They are flying around for a very long time, and Del wakes up, and he says, I bet you $100 that we're not going to Chicago. So you find out that their plane was diverted. There was a blizzard in Chicago, and they end up landing in Wichita, where Neil and Del are basically trapped. They kind of find each other, and so Neil goes to call his wife and just kind of apologize and say, we're in Wichita, like I'm gonna try and get out as soon as I can. Tries to call a hotel to stay the night. Everywhere's booked, and then we get Del to the rescue. So I guess he said what
he said when you called your wife, I called the name whatever.
He's like, I called a hotel.
He's like, oh, I should have seen that.
Yeah,
that's what he said. Oh no, Steve Martin says that. Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
okay.
And I think it's so funny. So this is the first. I just wanted to bring up a lot of these because all throughout this movie, he's like, yeah, a buddy of mine, I sold him some shower rings a while back.
Oh, that's the best part. He's a shower ring salesman. You're like,
yeah,
how can you make money being a shower ring salesman? And then you talk to this guy, you're like, oh, he could sell shower
he could
to
sell
anybody.
it to anything. But he has, throughout this movie, a theme is that basically Del, through being a traveling salesman, he just knows and has a ton of connections everywhere, basically, which is, I think it's just so funny to me. So they end up staying at a hotel together after kind of a strange cab ride over, which is just so bizarre. Basically his wife, Neil's wife, he's kind of telling her what happened. And they basically decide, okay, Del says, I'll get you a room. I know the guy. They get there and there's only one room available, so they have to share. And this is just like, I think this is probably one of the funniest lines coming up when they're actually in the hotel room together. So basically, actually when they get to the hotel, Del has a really funny line. He's like, I'll let you pay for it, so you don't seem like you're like mooching or something like that.
Yeah, so he gets the first room. Neil gets the first room, and they're like, oh, that's the only room we have.
Yeah.
So he's like, he looks at him, he's like, oh.
He's like, God damn it. So they're forced to share the last available room. And he sits down. So Del's on the bed. Instantly, he's unpacking everything. He's a huge slob. He's on the bed. So he takes a shower first. He's then on the bed, which is like a vibrating bed. And he puts a 6-pack of beer on the bed next to him. So then kind of separately, Steve Martin is going to shower. And they've been there for half hour. And the whole bathroom is torn to shit. There's wet towels everywhere.
Dude, that's what I don't understand. There's wet towels everywhere.
Everywhere. I mean, I think it's just building the fact that like he's John Candy's character is just like a huge slob.
I don't even understand how you do that.
I don't know.
It's crazy.
It's really funny.
It looked like he just opened his bag and threw it.
Yeah, he brings his own pillow. He has a picture of his wife next to him on the bedstand. It's just it's just so funny. So basically, Neil ends up losing his temper, losing it, saying like, how are you a person? Basically, he says
because the beer exploded all over.
Yeah, the beer ends up exploding,
which I don't understand. If I exploded if you and I were on this road trip,
yeah,
and I had done that, like first of all, I would have been like, I guess I'm sleeping in the beer. And you would have been like, I'm not sleeping in that. And his response is, I guess I have to sleep in this beer. And I'm like,
well, he says John Candy offers to switch. He's like, I'll switch with you. And he's like, no, I just want to go to bed.
Like, okay.
Basically. And you're like, all right, dude, fine.
Have fun with the Pilsner.
Yeah. So they're sharing a bed there. It's a very tiny bed too, which I think it's just like comically small. They basically end up like, so Neil loses his temper. They end up kind of making amends, saying like, I'm sorry. Like, it's just the whole stress of everything. They end up going to bed. While they're asleep, a burglar breaks in and steals all of their cash out of their wallet. So this is like, it's just the way this movie piles on is so good. Like, did you notice that burglar? He's just like the most stereotypical, like, I'm trying to, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He like puts the money under his hat and stuff like that. He has like a switchblade knife, and you're like, all right, dude. They tried to pick like
an old timey like
see
like you'd see him in a black and white movie.
Yeah, he basically should have had like the little black eye mask and the striped shirt.
He could have played the Penguin in the Batman television series.
Yeah, I think they were like, you know how the Hamburglar is a guy.
I need you to be that, but
but we're gonna make you in the 80s instead. So they are robbed, essentially. So the next morning, they wake up in the bed and they are spooning. So John Candy is the big spoon and Steve Martin is the little spoon. And he wakes up to John Candy kissing his ear. He's like, Del, why are you kissing my ear? He's like, I don't know. He's like, hey, Del, where are your hands? He says, oh, they're between these two pillows.
And as a kid, I don't know. I saw that clip.
Yeah. Well, and
like,
Steve Martin then yells, "Those aren't pillows!
Those aren't pillows!"
They just jump up out of bed.
I think I saw that. I must have seen that part. That's the part I remember the most as a kid.
Yeah.
That part.
What do you think the two pillows were? I thought it was his thighs or his butt cheeks.
It's his butt cheeks for sure. What do you think it is? You thought it was his thighs?
Yeah, like he's got it like tucked between the back, like a little, you know.
No, I think he's got like probably one hand like up doing the old, probably under his neck doing the old neck
doing
prop.
the old how you doing? Yeah.
The old like, hey, let me support your neck like lumbar, but for your neck.
Sure,
and the other
time.
hand
is just grabbing a handful of.
I don't know. I think it's grabbing. I think it's just slid in like a credit card. Just
oh man, he's trying to.
Just a stiff breeze could just blow him back. I think that's the situation. I don't know. It's never. I don't know if it's ever been.
I like that they don't describe it though.
I want to know if they actually like method acted that. Like, all right, I got to do this.
I don't know. I think it would have
spread them. The people will know if we're messing around here.
Messing around.
The sheet's not that thick. They'll know.
But I like they jump up and they're like, "Oh, the Bears! Yeah, I think they're gonna go all the way this year."
It's like,
we
gotta be as manly as possible here.
Like, oh,
yeah, like, oh yeah, you know, you want to get those beers going? I know it's breakfast, but like beer o'clock,
beer o'clock. So basically now it is the next day. The air travel is still delayed, so they basically can't buy a plane ticket. So actually, when they checked in, this is a plot point that comes up a little later. But Dell accidentally grabs the wrong credit card when they checked into the hotel room
because they have the same.
They have the same exact.
Card.
They have the same exact card, which is just that scene like kills me because I'm like, oh, it's so simple. But
it's like the little things, like in Home Alone when you see the boarding passes go in the trash.
Yeah,
and you see Kevin's name.
Yeah,
it's like, oh no, that's gonna be a problem later.
That's classic Hughes, baby.
He's like, yeah, if you're really watching, you'll know what's happening.
You'll know. Only the real ones will know.
Yeah, if you get really close to the screen, you'll know.
If you get really close to the screen.
If you tell your significant other, shut the fuck up, you're watching the movie.
Oh my god.
You might not have the SO anymore, but you'll know what's going on in the movie. I don't know what that is. Can we just cut that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'll do something. Anyway, so basically the next day they aren't able to get an air travel. It's still delayed. Neil ends up buying both of them tickets to Chicago, but they're basically, they rented a car. So they did the plane part of the movie. They are now onto the, I guess, one of two automobile scenes of the movie. So the locomotive, I'm sorry. No, this is the train ticket. Yeah, train ticket. So they're on the train part. So it was the plane. Now they're on the train part.
Oh, yeah, but we have to talk about the diner scene, though.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Because this is where they. I like how they don't realize right away that they've been robbed until they go to pay the bill.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's like, oh, I got the hotel. Like you can. I think he proposes it, and he's like, you can get breakfast or whatever. He goes to open his wallet, and he's like, he's like, Neil, you robbed me, and he's like, what are you talking about?
Oh no, he thinks Dell robbed him. Steve Martin thinks.
Do I have him backwards?
Yeah. Steve Martin thinks John Candy.
Oh, he's going to pay.
Yeah, Steve Martin's going to pay.
And he thinks Dell robbed him.
And he thinks Dell robbed
what?
him. Yeah.
I think he goes to open up his wallet too, and he's like, we've been robbed. And he's like, what did you say? What was your?
Oh yeah, he's like, what was your first?
What was your first clue?
What was your first clue? Steve Martin's character, he actually he's supposed to be a curmudgeon in this movie, but he's pretty funny.
He's funny.
He compliments John Candy really well. But there's also a funny line at the diner scene where they were like, yeah, odds are, they're basically talking about we have to try and get a flight. And he's like, no, odds are there's no flights coming out here. He's like, I'm going to bet that we're having our turkey sandwiches right here on Thanksgiving. It's just an awesome scene. So they decide to buy train tickets, but they get seated in separate cars. So basically this is throughout the whole movie. Every time that they have a new method of transportation, Steve Martin's like, well, Dell, it's been real. I'll
good. This is the end here.
I'll see you around. And so the train ends up breaking down near Jefferson City, basically stranding. They're stranded in a field at this point. So Neil takes pity on Dell, who's struggling with his trunk. He's basically trying to, it's the
it breaks down.
Yeah,
and they have to cross the field. They have to walk field to. Oh my god!
Yeah,
it's just mud.
This is truly a nightmare.
Yeah.
This is awful. So they walk to. I think they're trying to go. Basically to take a bus at this point. So they walk over to a bus station, and there's a really great line. So now they're basically going to try and take a bus to the airport. They don't have any money. Dell ends up raising cash by selling curtain ring samples. So earlier in the movie,
awesome.
you were like, "Oh, he could sell to anyone."
Yeah.
So.
And he's making basically anything you could imagine. It's mostly earrings though, right?
Yeah.
He's doing a lot of earrings.
He's like, these are hand carved ivory earrings from 1200 BC.
Plastic earrings. Yeah. They're plastic shower curtain rings.
It's so good.
But he's getting like a couple bucks here, a couple bucks there. He's selling them. And I'm like, damn, he really could sell like ice to the Eskimo.
Yeah,
you know?
it's incredible.
I don't know. Is that the saying?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Ice to a polar bear, whatever it is. I don't even know what the saying is.
That's not it.
Anyways, yeah. So he's just selling this, and you're like, okay, this dude's the man.
Yeah. Oh, big time. So he raises a bunch of money, and they're going to buy a bus ticket to get them to the airport. Which he's a really funny line. He's after the train breaks down. Steve Martin is in like a terrible mood and stuff like that. They finally get back and they're at the bus. They're at the bus station, and Dell goes like, have you ever been on a bus before? And he's like, no. And he's like, I promise you, your mood's not going to improve.
That's right.
And then the next scene, they're on the, which is like, that's so good. That's so funny. Yeah, he's like, I promise you, your mood's not going to improve. It's just so good. So now they're on the bus over to the airport, and basically Dell is like life of the party. So he's a very likable guy. I don't know if you're supposed to I don't know who you're supposed to like in this movie. Does that make sense?
Well, you're supposed to like him and probably not like, and
be like Steve Martin.
He's kind of Scrooge in this one.
Yeah, he's got a little stick up his butt.
Like he's probably the more presentable of the two. Like he's the one that you would like rather be seen with. The other guy's just like a clown, you know what I mean? He's like,
he's like having more fun. He's uniting the people. He's like singing on the bus and stuff. He starts singing the Flintstones on the bus and stuff.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's just so good. So now they're at the St. Louis airport. Neil attempts to rent a car. So they both are like, all right, we're here. No flights. I'll get a car. It's fine. So they end up trying to get a car. Neil, Steve Martin, gets to the parking spot, and there's no car there.
This is where the nightmare continues. Again.
Yeah, and the bus that got him out to there, all the way out there,
it just speeds
gone.
off.
It's just gone. So he is like absolutely pissed. He has this huge walk back to the terminal, and he goes up to the rental agent, basically, which is played by the what's the word I'm looking for?
Edie McClurg,
the receptionist in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and he has.
But before he does that, he's freaking out in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Rips up the
renter agreement,
throws it. That's gone.
Tough move there, buddy.
That was a bad idea. I was like, man, that's not a good idea. You shouldn't do that. Back. Every time I watch it, still, I'm like, don't do that. Just put it back in your pocket.
Yeah, it's not great. I'm not going to do the whole speech that he gets when he gets to the.
No.
Do you think I should look it up?
You can. I think. Yeah. You know what? Because it's a lot of F words.
It's a ton of. Are you saying I shouldn't do it?
No, you should do it.
Too many F words. Okay.
I said F multiple times already because I.
When did you say that?
When I said like I don't know. I said something offensive earlier.
Not
offensive, but like I said the F word.
I'm gonna have to. I don't know.
Yeah, I said that.
I don't know.
I said the fuck word.
I said the fuck word. I'm just trying to. Yeah, bear with me here. I'm just trying to pull up the quote. I should have planned this. Oh yeah. So this is the whole exchange. So rental car agent, welcome to Marathon. How may I help you? Or may I help you? Neil, yes. How may I help you? You can start by wiping that fucking dumbass smile off your rosy fucking cheeks. Then you can drive me to a fucking automobile, a fucking Datsun, a fucking Toyota, a fucking Mustang, a fucking Buick, 4 fucking wheels and a seat. I really don't care for the way you're speaking to me. And I don't really care for the way your company left me in the middle of fucking nowhere with fucking keys to a fucking car that isn't fucking there. I don't care. Fucking walked on a fucking highway across a fucking runway to get back here to have you smile in my fucking face. I want a fucking car right fucking now. And then, I'm so sorry, Mom. I think my mom listens to the show. The rental car agent, may I see your rental agreement? Neil, I threw it away. Rental car agent, oh boy, what? Rental car agent, you're fucked. It's just such an awesome.
Yeah, sorry, Mrs. Boyd. I know that was a lot of F words there.
Yeah.
And Nick said he had to do it because it's like for the show. So like, I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. He also tried to get me to, get a credit card out in your name or whatever. But
whoa.
No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, yeah, just just get 5K.
Be like, it's just a couple numbers, dude.
It's just
Social
like-
Security.
It's like blood, you know what I mean? Like, she gets it.
Anyway, that was so dumb. So anyway, she basically
we gotta get some Diablo accounts, dude. I'm sorry.
No, it's wild. So she is. So he basically is outside, and his great plan, Neil's great plan, is to get a cab all the way back home. And so he goes up to the cab stand and he says, like, you know, you're in St. Louis, right? Like, it's basically implying like this is going to be really expensive. And Steve Martin goes, look, if I wanted a joke, I'd follow you into the John. Which is just wild.
This is because the guy he says it to is insane looking.
So he gets punched out, basically, falls into the street at the same time that Del is driving up in a rental car, which every time you see Del, he's always fine. Like, yep, got a car.
Like,
I need a car, got a car. What are you going to do? So he pulls up and basically is like, come on. Like, just come with me. We'll figure it out. So now they're driving.
Whoa. We can't ignore this part where he says,
yeah, go for it.
He says, aren't you going to help him up? And the other guy says,
to the
cab driver says, oh, no problem. And he just grabs him by his
hoo-ha. We can't say wiener, but I just said the F word 19 times.
Grabs him by his ding-a-ling. Literally picks him up by his ding-a-ling.
Yeah.
And you just see,
and then the next scene, they're in the car.
His voice is just
is so. They like they tuned it so it was really high pitched. But John Candy goes, "I've just never seen anyone get picked up by their crotch before like that." It's so great. So basically, they're just going to try and drive to Chicago at this point. So they're on the freeway. Steve Martin is driving first. Then they end up switching. So you have Del behind the wheel. Steve Martin is going to try and sleep. Del tries to take his jacket off after flicking a cigarette out of the window, which accidentally gets sucked back into the car, which they don't know about. So he's trying to take his jacket off because it's getting hot in the car. His jacket gets stuck on either side of the chair on kind of the little electric controls. He rips his jacket off and pulls the car unknowingly, which I don't know how he didn't notice, over the median. So now they're driving the wrong way on the highway at this point. So Neil wakes up and he's like, oh yeah, sorry. I just, I had to swerve around a pothole or whatever. There's a car that comes up on the right side of the highway. And this line, I say this line all the time. He basically looks over and there's a car honking at them and they're on the right side of the highway. They tell him to roll his window down, and the guy screams, "You're going the wrong way." And Steve Martin goes, "How does he know where we're going?" Which is just like such an awesome line.
But they're like, it's not even like a divided highway where it's like, oh, the lanes are close. It's like one of those ones where there's a median, like a grass.
Yeah,
the whole thing. Like they're so far away.
Yeah.
Driving the same way.
There's no way that they wouldn't know. But
yeah, look at these guys.
How does he know where we're going?
And then he assumes that he assume that they're on the wrong side?
He assumes that the guy's drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, okay, buddy. And then he does like a motion that he's like drinking. So then they realize that they are driving on the wrong side of the road. There's two semi trucks coming at them. They go between both of them. And their sparks are flying, and then in the meantime, they both turn into skeletons.
Yeah, they're like the Marv from Home Alone 2.
Yeah. John Candy turns into the devil, and he's like, ha, 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 looking over him. It's such a great
They lose basically both sides of the car as they're driving.
Yeah, and then so after they get out from between the trucks, he slams on the brake, and Del's trunk goes flying out into the street. So they get out of the car. They're basically they pull over. They're just trying to collect their thoughts. And there's a great line. John Candy goes, "Oh, sure, this will buff out." And the whole car is just absolutely destroyed on either side. So while they're over trying to get the trunk, you see that the car bursts into flames in the back because of the lit cigarette that was accidentally sucked back in. It's just so good.
Like, oh, on.
Yeah, it's just one thing after another.
So the car is completely
done.
So you would think though that they're done with the car.
No, it's still driving, still mobile. The one thing to note is that when Steve Martin relinquished his time behind the wheel to John Candy, he put his wallet in the glove compartment, and Del's wallet was in his jacket, which was still on the seat. Just as like that detail will come up. So they're driving this absolutely scorched car. It's which they're freezing in the seat too.
Del has gotten it's under Del's name.
Yeah, it's under Del's name.
But
I think this is where you find out that he was like, we accidentally switched credit cards, so this was technically under your name.
Yeah.
Well, so Steve, after they realize that the car's on fire, Steve Martin starts laughing, and he's
how
like,
could you-
one time, he's like, for once, it's you who's like, this is happening to.
And then he says, how could you rent the thing without a credit card anyway? I mean, you could, but how could you?
Yeah. And he's like, well, that's the thing.
He's like, but you can't. He's like, but I gave the gal some shower curtains. He says, you can't rent a car with shower curtains, Del.
Yeah.
It's like, well, your Diners Club card wound up in my wallet, and you stole it.
You stole it. He was like, I was going to send it right back.
So yeah, so Neil is in a great mood. Not a great mood, but he's almost like
he's like, it's not mine.
He's like, finally something bad happened to you.
Yeah,
and it's not.
It was
my
his
problem.
credit card the
like,
whole time.
That's my credit card that we just destroyed this car with.
Yeah, poor guy.
He's like, I was gonna send your card back with whatever the rental charge was.
Yeah, he's like, you can just reverse that. He's like, I was just gonna send those charges right back, and it would have been fine. It's just so good. But at this point, they have to try and find a motel room. They schlep their way to the nearest one, and Neil ends up bartering with the guy. He gives him his watch for a night in the hotel.
Oh my God.
John Candy goes up, and he was like, I don't have anything, but I had, and he's like, what kind of, the guy working at the hotel's like, what kind of watch do you have? And he goes, a Casio.
Yo, so Ethan at work has the same. That's what.
Yeah,
that's
the same
is,
exact
This
one.
is where I thought about the cat. I was looking at his watch today because I just was talking to him. And I'm like, why is that? And I remember now. It's because it's in this movie.
Yeah, he has like
Casio.
the same one.
And I'm like, these watches are like coming back in style somehow.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand because it definitely didn't look cool in this movie. And sorry, it doesn't look that cool now. But anyways,
dang, that was brutal.
no, it just looks like 1980. It looks like a 1980s watch.
Yeah,
That's what it looks like.
looks like an older watch.
Does it? I wouldn't say it looks normal.
No, I said older watch.
Oh,
it just looks like an old. No,
Yeah,
it just looks like an older watch.
like 80s watch.
But
yeah, that's so funny. He tries to pass. He's like,
it's like,
what does he try to get for it? He tries to get like some. He's like, I forgot what he says to him. Like,
well, he basically tries to rent a motel room.
He's like, yeah, I'll just.
And the guy's just like, no.
Oh, this is where I say goodnight.
Yeah. So he ends up. Steve Martin is in the room. He looks outside, and Del is
he
sitting.
says I'm sorry. This is what he says. I got $2 and a Casio.
And a Casio. So he's basically, he's just sitting out in the charred car, and this is one of the first times that he's talking to his wife, basically, just kind of out loud. Like, it looks like he's just like, I really screwed it up this time, didn't I? Like, he's starting to be like, shit, like maybe I really was the problem all along. But at this point, Steve Martin looks outside, kind of takes pity on him, and is like, hey, you're going to freeze to death out there. So this is kind of, I think, Steve Martin, I think, is realizing, like, we're both in this together at this point. Like, there's no sense fighting it. So they go in, they end up sharing. Del has a bunch of miniature liquor bottles. I don't know how.
There's so many of them.
He has tons of them. But they basically, they're bonding and laughing with each other, joking around and stuff. And basically Del, I think this is a cool part where Del kind of like opens up, and he's like, at the end of the day, all that's going to be left, like once I'm gone, is just like a bunch of old shower curtain rings. And he says, and Steve Martin goes, yeah, but you have your wife, like she loves you, like that's awesome. They toast to their wives, and then they basically just go back to giggling. Which Steve Martin says a really funny, not a funny line, but a cool line where he says, why do I feel like I'm at summer camp right now? Because they're just kind of giggling to each other, and they're actually becoming friends, I think, is what this scene is really supposed to highlight. So it's the next morning. I don't think anything goes awry in this hotel at night.
No, I think,
which is good. It's like the
first.
Yeah. So they get up the next morning, and their car is completely plowed in. So they're rocking it back and forth, trying to get this thing loose. And he puts it in reverse and drives right through the motel room, crashes through it. He's like, shit, we got to get out of here. They peel out, and then they're back on the road in this burnt, just mess of a car. So they're driving along. They get pulled over by a state patrol, like an Illinois state patrol. And there's a really great set of dialogue. Did you have anything written for this one? So Dell, he gets pulled over and he goes, "Now, officer, I know what you're going to say. It doesn't look like much, but she's sturdy. She's got, 4 wheels she drives." And she's like, he's like, "Oh, let me turn the radio down." He's like, "Funniest thing, the whole car's charred, but the radio works clear as a whistle. I don't get it." And he's just like trying to be chummy with the state patrolman. They end up impounding it because, for obvious reasons, because the car is completely charred. They ended up hitching a ride. They find a ride through Dell. It's another one of his, like, "Oh, a buddy of mine, I know a guy" type thing. They get a ride in a semi-refrigerated trailer, basically. So they're now finally, after freezing their ass off, at the Chicago train station. Or it's the L. It's like the local Chicago train system, basically. Neil ends up, this is kind of the end of their journey. They've passed the plane, the train, and now the automobile phase. Neil is basically thanking Dell for getting him home. And he's like, "You know what? All said and done, this was kind of funny." So Neil's kind of lightened up a little bit, which is good. I think he's realizing like something like this is what I needed a little bit. You get the sense that he was this, real corporate guy, and he just went into work and he was in marketing. And so I think it was, you're supposed to say like, this is good for Neil in a way. So they part ways. As Neil is on the train, he's reminiscing about the trip, but he starts thinking about some of Dell's kind of comments along the journey, mostly about like how he hasn't been home in years, and how he had the best. He said that, "Oh, I had the best wife," and little hints like this. And it occurs to him that Dell is basically, trying to get home. He's like trying to get home. You find out that unfortunately his wife passes away. So he turns, it kind of flips back to Dell, and you see Steve Martin get off the train, and he's like, "Come on, like, you're coming with me." So it's I think this is a really nice way to tie this movie back together. So Dell explains to him that he's homeless. His wife passed away, and his wife basically died 8 years ago, and that's the last time he's been home. So he's basically like the big trunk and traveling with a pillow. He's just been on the road.
And it all makes sense then why he knows everybody and which way to go, and basically how to get and not freak out during traveling, because he's just been traveling.
Yeah, because to him it's he needed to get to Chicago, but if he didn't get there, it really wasn't a big deal to him.
He basically just sells these shower curtains so he can afford to eat and travel, I guess.
Basically. And so Neil ends up bringing him home for Thanksgiving, and introduces him to his family and stuff like that. And I think it is just like a really nice way to tie the movie, basically tie the movie together. So, and that's the end of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. There is a very funny post-credit scene at the beginning of the movie. His boss, who is looking at the different covers and stuff, his boss is still trying to decide what cover to pick in like a post-credit scene. Did you see that at all?
Yeah.
I just think that's funny.
I don't think I knew that was a scene before. Maybe this time or the time before though. Like
I just always turn the movie off.
Yeah,
but I let it play the last time. I think I
just shut the credits.
So yeah, like you said, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Did you have anything for this one? There was a couple cool lines. So when they're one that I wanted to talk about, which it wasn't directly a nod, but whether in the cabin drinking the little mini bar, like all the little mini bottles. He says, "Dell, where are you going? Like where, what's next for you?" And he says, "I think I'm going to go back to Jamaica." And then he starts saying like, "Oh," like just basically reminiscing about how great it would be like to be there and stuff like that. This is unrelated because I looked, but in 1993, John Candy would go to star in a movie called Cool Runnings, where he lived in Jamaica. Oh. So I like to think that Dell figured his way back to Jamaica in Cool Runnings. I'm going to look it up really quick. I want to see who directed that, because if that was like a John Hughes thing, I'm going to confirm that it was all related. It was not related.
I don't think it is.
But anyway, I just thought that was
it'd be cool
neat.
Though
if they just tied it together. Yeah.
That's cool.
So yeah, what did you have?
I like the line. Oh shoot, I just had it right up here. He's like, when he asked the dude to pick him, he's like, "I've never seen a man get picked up by his testicles before."
Yeah. It's so good. Yeah, I think, like I said, this is just a great Thanksgiving movie. I think this follows a very similar comedy style to, like we said, Christmas Vacation.
Oh, and then when they're at the hotel, he says Dale Griffith, like his buddy Gus.
Yeah.
Dale Griffith, how the hell are you? He's like, well, I'm still $1,000,000 shy of being a millionaire.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I told Emily that I need to start saying that. That's such a good, like, cheesy line. But he's just like I said, I think he's supposed to be a really likable guy, and Steve Martin is supposed to be a really kind of uptight dude. And they all learn from each other in true John Hughes fashion.
Did you already say this one? When he's talking about not being able to go to Chicago, he's like, $6 and my right nut says we're not landing in Chicago.
Oh, that's what he says when he's when they're in the flight. No, I didn't. Yeah. I didn't have the direct quote. But yeah, then there's also a really good. I think there's one like really classic John Hughes scene. So when they're in the hotel room after the beer explodes, Steve Martin loses his mind and kind of goes off on him, and basically at this point, John Candy goes. He goes on to say, like, you know what? Yeah, like, I'm a little loud. People might say, you might think I'm obnoxious, but people like me. My customer likes me. My wife likes me, and I'm not going to change who I am, basically. But there's like really inspirational music playing, and I thought that was like the quintessential John Hughes, like, empowering speech that is like seen in every one of his movies. Which I just thought that was
because you have the one the music's cued too.
The music cued because then the same thing in The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 16 Candles. It's always literally music, all of these. There's always like the music will switch, and then it's just like inspiration. It's just so good. I love this movie. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
I just had another funny one. I think here.
Yeah.
I forget which hotel they're in, but he's like, you play with your balls a lot. He's like, I do not play with my balls. And he's like,
they're in the car, and he says, yeah, and he's basically he's like, Steve Martin is giving him crap because he's like, yeah, man, like there's a lot of things you do that annoy me, Del. And he goes, oh yeah, there's a couple things that you do that don't sit too well with me.
It's like Larry Bird doesn't do as much ball handling in one night as you do in an hour.
Yeah. And he's like, you know what would be great? And he's like a couple of extra balls on his. He's like a pair of balls and a couple extra hands. That's just so good. Yeah, it's good times. I really liked this one. I didn't really have anything crazy for this. I just figured that the movie kind of stands on its own without any fun trivia or anything like that.
No, yeah. But it's, like you said, good, quintessential John Hughes.
Feel-good movie.
Road movie.
Yeah.
Traveling at the holidays. I think anyone can probably relate to it.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Middle America. Yeah, I don't know. It's a fun movie, and it's just like a good time, and it's like 90 minutes.
Yeah. So this was the one thing that I did say was pretty cool. John Hughes said that he was basically inspired to write the story because he actually went on he was trying to fly from New York to Chicago, and he was diverted to Wichita, Kansas, similar to them. And that's basically like, I mean, obviously he didn't share a room with someone and like all that stuff. But I think that was kind of cool. And then separately in interviews, so I think just kind of like surrounding this whole movie, that's a lot of like really positive things. Like Steve Martin and John Candy have both said in interviews that this was one of their favorite movies to film. Like, I just think I think it's not only a great movie, but then it also, you kind of like it more when you find out like people had a really good time doing this and it was just a really fun set to be on. I don't know, that like other people might not give a shit, but I know you and I like enjoy that kind of stuff.
And they definitely don't make comedies like this anymore.
No.
It's always got to be like, oh, ball. Well, I guess they do say balls in this one. But I mean, like, I feel like the way that they do it it doesn't feel vulgar.
Yeah.
It's just funny.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, dude.
It's like, oh,
I farted. Like, yeah. It's like, you know what I mean?
Dude, yeah. No, I get it.
Have you seen the movie Due Date? It's similar to this, but it's Robert Downey and Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah, I have seen that movie.
They basically have to get across the country.
It's the same plot.
It's the same kind of plot.
Yeah. It's pretty funny.
It's pretty good.
That is a pretty good one. I would say if you enjoyed that one. But
it's not the same.
It's not the same.
I wouldn't even recommend it.
But if you did like this movie, for the listeners out there, definitely watch every one of John Candy's movies like 5 times. He's incredible, and it's unfortunate that he passed away. Yeah. Did you have anything else before we wrap this one up?
I will say they were talking about remaking this.
I really hope they don't.
And but it's just funny. The leads they were going to have originally were Will Smith and Kevin Hart as them, and then it switched to Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler. That could be kind of funny if it was Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler. It's not the same though.
That's not the same.
I really don't think they should do it, but I'm just saying
in the era of remakes, reboots, and reimaginations that we're currently living, like just stop making reboots.
When we saw, there are some good ones, but when we saw Napoleon,
yeah,
I'm gonna say Olivia turned to me and said, "They're like," and we had 20 minutes of commercials or whatever, or trailers. Yeah. She's like, I hate to say this, but there is not one original.
No,
like everything was like a new Marvel adaptation or like something that was like a remake or a reboot or a sequel to something.
Yeah.
Like, or I'm not even joking. There wasn't one trailer that we watched that was like, oh, that's something generally cool and new.
Yeah.
She's like, this is horseshit.
It even sucks because there are like some really good movies that are coming out too. Like they're doing a version of The Color Purple. Did you see that?
It's out now, right?
I think it might be by the time.
Color. Yeah, that looks good.
Like that looks really good. But again, that's a story based on a book. Like I think
that's already been a movie.
That's already been a movie. Yeah,
yeah. That one I think is,
that one looks good. The cast in that
we won't throw that in
awesome.
the same category as the other ones. But you're right. Everything is kind of like recycled at some point.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate.
But I will say the new Godzilla movie looks awesome.
I think that one looks cool too.
List. I'm going to see it this week.
I saw the trailer for that. It looked really good. So what do you think? Should we wrap this one up as a nice little Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I think we can wrap it.
All right. Well, everyone, I know this one is a little later, but we hope you all had an enjoyable Thanksgiving if you celebrate. Keith, you want to, what's a quote to lead the people out with?
I forget what they say at the end. The end quote would be good, but I don't remember what it is.
I think he just says like, "This is my friend Dill."
And then, she says something. The wife says something. I was trying to look it up, but I can't remember what she says. She says something nice. And then
we almost had a cool outro then.
No, I think it's funny that we don't have one.
All right, so the official quote is...
I've never seen a man picked up by his testicles before.
Until next time, everybody.